Welcome to the Soul Deep Podcast with Jessica Janty. Join me as we dive deep into raw, real, in-depth conversations about life, love, relationships, sexuality, spirituality, what it is we're really here for, and anything in between. I want this to feel like a safe space for anyone on a spiritual journey, trying to find answers in your truth by having open heart and open-minded conversations. And my hope for you as a listener is that you feel this is a safe space here, a place to hear things from a different perspective that may challenge you and your thinking in the best way possible, allowing you to give grace to how you've been raised or what you've been taught or told to believe. And perhaps you find your truth as I search for mine on this journey we call life. So grab your favorite drink, cozy on up to your couch or wherever you listen from, and join me for these soul deep conversations. All right, welcome back to the podcast. So today I have here with me Reese. And Reese, I'm so excited that you were here today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. It's so good to see you, by the way,
I
too.
know. So good to see you again. I was so excited to see your face again. I was like, oh, this is so exciting.
Mhm.
Reese and I actually met in Canada. Oh, and was that September?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
September of this year. So it was really exciting because I had watched As She Rises the year before, and I heard everybody come back and talking about how they got tattoos at the conference. And I'm like, what? Who tattoos at a conference? And what is going
Mhm.
on? This is super cool. And so then my dream was, okay, when I come back, when I get there next year, I'm going to get tattooed. So that was a fun experience as well.
And you sure did. You you definitely got tattooed, that's for sure.
Yes,
And
that
I
was
love
fun.
it. And you were just so calm and serene, and it felt very grounding to be in your energy as I was tattooing you. So it made it really very simple for me to just like go in there, and it was like easy peasy. So absolutely, yeah, it was awesome experience.
Okay, before we go too far, let's just take some breaths if you're good
Yeah.
with that. All
Mhm.
right. So
Mhm.
closing down your eyes, if you're here with us and you are comfortable doing that, we're just going to take some breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. Just grounding ourselves here into this moment, really giving ourselves this gift of the present when we can stop for a moment just to breathe and to be with our body, letting go of all the outside distractions, things you were doing before this, maybe things you have to do later, and just being here and with your breath. So just continuing that inhale and exhale as we take this power of the pause that I love to call it. We really are able to get into our body. And what I mean by that is, like we said before, just letting go of the outside distractions. We're constantly inundated with all the things, different people, social media, everything telling us who we should be, what we should look like, how we should act. And when we get quiet with ourselves, we take the time to learn who we are and what we need, what we want, how we tick. That's where the true power lies, inside of ourselves. So when we can build these muscles up of taking these breaths, this power of the pause to just be with ourselves and learn who we are, what we need, there's so much power to that, not just in healing our body by being still, resting our nervous system, but learning who we are and how we want to show up in the world. Just taking a couple more breaths here. Maybe as you inhale, inhaling maybe a thought or a feeling or something that you want to come into this time and space with, and letting your exhale just releasing something that isn't serving you in this moment. So we'll take one more big, deep inhale together. And if you're comfortable, big audible exhale. Thank you for breathing with me. Thank you for taking these powerful moments just for yourself here. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much. That was awesome. I feel very grounded at this moment.
Yes. I love opening everything with that because I just feel it's so powerful. So, and
Hmm.
it's so simple, something we don't think about, so easy to do, but we're constantly in this busyness of going and doing that even sometimes we feel like that is just not productive enough to sit there and be still. So I love that
Hmm.
reminder of just taking that time because I even need that. Even though I do breath work and this is what I do, I
Hmm.
oftentimes get stuck in this busyness of going and doing and like, wait, no, I know what I need. I need to just sit and be with my breath. So,
Hmm. Yeah. I'm 100% with you in that every single day. It's like meditation for me is huge into my practice and in my work. And even times for us facilitating, we need it for ourselves as well. And so I'm just like, ugh, I love it. If anybody's going to bring me down to myself, to the core of who I am, I'm like, yes, please, anytime.
yes, I love that. Okay, what are you drinking today? Because we talked about it briefly before we started, but I know you're drinking something.
Yeah, I am actually drinking a strawberry vanilla Olipop. It's a prebiotic botanical plant fibrous
Mm.
little kombucha type drink.
I have a friend who's obsessed with them. She's obsessed with them.
They're really good. I'm not a big I like to make my own like juices and drinks and things like that. So I'm very huge on like growing my own and making my own, anything when it comes to food or even just juice in general. But we had these in the fridge and I was like, oh my gosh, that looks so tasty. It's like the first time I'd ever drink one this early in the morning. It's normally like a nighttime thing. So it's like the most random thing I could have
Yeah.
actually right now.
So you grow now. I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute because everybody's probably like, "Who is this person?"
Oh yeah.
But you grow. Well, maybe we'll get back to that. Growing your own stuff and juicing. We'll get back
Yeah.
to that. But I'll let you tell us who you are and all of
Yeah.
that. So people who are like, "Who is this person?" Let us know who she is.
Totally. Okay. So my name is Reese. I am a tattoo artist, tattoo shop owner, entrepreneur, spiritual business coach, and meditation queen, as a lot of my own students and members like to call me. Um, I basically, yeah, I'm just here really just like loving on people, how wanting them to see themselves shine in their tattoo businesses and their entrepreneurial businesses or creative businesses, and really utilizing what like the idea that all of our understanding, our wealth, our knowledge, our wisdom comes from the inside and the way that we can brand that outside of us. So,
I love that. That's so
mhm.
beautiful. There's so many like questions and things that I want to say and ask. But first, let's go back to the juicing. So
Yeah.
I have that still and fresh in my mind. So
Yes.
because I know that you live in, well, what I'm thinking is kind of like a bigger city that might not have a lot of like outside space. So
Hmm.
you grow your stuff like you have your own space where you can do that.
Yeah. So, gosh, it's going to slip my memory, of course, and I'll think of it in the middle of it. But there are these, so I don't have a lot of space.
Mhm.
I have two balconies, and one balcony that I utilize is on ground floor, and it's basically this contraption
Is it like a
that you build
hydroponic
in.
thing?
What's that?
Is it like hydroponic?
Oh, yes. It's like a kind of it's like it's not quite hydroponics, but it's like it's just this really weird contraption where you basically put your seeds inside of these things and then you have like a hose that's just connected to it and it'll continue to grow. Doesn't matter like where in the sunlight that it is. It's just like a really beautiful aspect. And so I just started growing like my own spinach and my, like all my own fruits and my veggies, the ones that I can grow
Yeah.
within this thing. And it's been a lot of fun. It keeps me outside. I'm very grounded. I'm very like I'm very called to the earth.
Mhm.
And so I need to get my hands dirty. And since, I do live in a beach town, it's one of those things where, yeah, you're right. You don't get a lot of land, a lot of land. So yeah, it's fun.
Awesome. Okay, so I know about your story
Yes.
a little bit, but I would love if you would, because there's not many tattoo artists that are also, at least I don't know any actually, that are also spiritual mentors, business mentors, and things like that. So, how did you get into what you are doing now?
Yeah. I think I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years now. I've been a tattoo artist for 13. Um, So I think there's always this, I don't know what it is about this level of being in entrepreneurship, but there's a lot of it where I do feel like there's a desire to like teach and help. So I never, like, I've always thought that that was going to happen, especially when I was in college, going back to school for fine art. And I thought that maybe I couldn't get an apprenticeship. So when I thought I wasn't going to be able to get an apprenticeship because it was already like almost 3 years and I was in college, I was like, fine, I'll just go get my master's degree in art and I'll become, I was like the starving artist. I'll become the starving artist and teach art. So that was like the whole goal if I didn't become a tattoo artist. Thankfully, I found my apprenticeship and then here we are today. Um, but yeah, so during my formative years, so maybe like years 1 through 6, becoming a tattooer, I was very I got I've always was a yes girl. So I was very much yes. I believed in myself very, very like delusionally and still do. But when you're in your 20s, there's like a whole other level of delusion there in that time. And I really loved that delusion within myself. It's like that childlike delusion, which I still take into my business now these days. However, at that time, it was just like so much. And my year and like I at a year or two of tattooing, I got a call to be on a tattoo television show, and I was so my career ended up blowing up pretty quickly from there. And on this television show, being 2 years into the tattoo industry, I did receive a lot of noise, a lot of hate, um, just a lot of opinions about other tattooers who were like, you shouldn't be on TV, all of these things. And I just remember during that time not having a way to kind of like understand that part of me that was feeling this need for validation and understanding from my peers. And so I turned to drugs, sex, alcohol to kind of numb all of the things that were coming up and trying to pretend like everything was hunky dory and I was so happy and my career was just going so crazy, but I just felt like I was never good enough.
Mm,
And in that, I got myself into I call it the gift of my rock bottom.
mm,
And in that I saw you know what I was like seeing myself doing. I could see myself just falling down this rabbit hole, and all I wanted was like one person to tell me that I was a good enough tattooer to do whatever it was that I needed. And so at the time, I had started taking tattoos that were not mine and posting them as my own just to make myself feel better. And it was like a drug. It was like this big drug for me, where it was like almost like this validation, this hit of dopamine that was allowing me to feel like I was good enough. And I would do it. And I remember doing this and feeling so much shame and hiding the shame through more drugs, sex, and alcohol. Then maybe, a month later, posting something else that would make me feel better about myself. And it was not until I think it was 2016 where I got caught very publicly and canceled by the industry. So the very industry that I desired to love me was the one who basically found out I had posted a tattoo, and a tattoo artist that was his tattoo. I actually knew him that I didn't know that that was happening. And he very publicly called me out. And it was gnarly. It was a really gnarly time in my life where I lost everything in my that I valued at the time, which was friends, and I burnt bridges, and all of my sponsorships dropped me, and clients left me, and I basically quit tattooing at the time. I quit tattooing for about a year and went into this like really deep dark night of the soul moment. Knees to the ground, tears every single day, trying to refine myself, trying to understand what it is that I wanted to do, and also just like who I wanted to be, really, because at that time I was like completely lost of who I was. I was so out of integrity, and it was my time where I got really sober. And I started to kind of flip things around a little bit. And I didn't think I'd ever come back to the tattoo industry, but when I started to get into meditation and really deeper into my spirituality, I started to notice that I kept feeling this nudge and this call to go back. And I was like, I can't show my face ever again in this industry. What are you talking about? Because there's no way I can come back. And I just was like, for some reason, I felt like I had to come back. But I wish I could say that it was this like, I'm back and everybody can, hear me roar and I'm turning my shame into power. And Not even close. Like I didn't show my face for another year. I hid behind my art. I really paid attention. I was like, okay, I'll never be out of integrity again, but I never said I would show my face again. So what I did was I got really, really good. Like I was already a decent artist. I just was unwilling to see myself as that. And I always put myself down and compared myself to something like that was like 20 million steps ahead of me. And so I just kept my head down, got really good at tattooing, got really, really good at tattooing. Didn't show my face in the online space and was only showing my art. And then I had realized that that wasn't, there was something in that that was kind of like blocking me from my next level wealth and success and the desired success that I wanted inside. And it was like I was like, because I felt like I was hiding something. And so I think it was like I had started to come out. I think no, actually it was in 2020. It was like right at 2020 when COVID hit and my mom had almost passed away through COVID. And it made me realize I was like it was like that one of those moments where I just realized I never like I don't want to waste time and I don't want to waste time hiding. And so I started to talk about my experience. I started to talk about what I'd done, how I'd taken tattoos and posted them as my own, how I had to build right back up, and how I'm turning my shame into power, insecurities into unapologetic self-expression. And when I started to do that, of course, it comes with a lot of hate, but it came up with a lot of compassion, understanding. And from there, that's kind of when I realized I was like, I've always wanted to coach, and I was already kind of coaching a little bit. I was doing like social media and marketing just a little bit for tattooers as a side hustle. But then I realized I started sharing my story. I was like, no, this is so much bigger than just marketing and business. This is something so much deeper. And so I started to explore. My own self, my own practices, and started to teach those. And then it became now these like embodiment practices to create brands, like iconic personal brands as tattooers, so that we can really impact people and their lives in such a transformative way through not only art as in like our tattoo art or our designs, but also art through our message and through our content and through the way that we are being and who we are embodying. And so it's been a really long, beautiful ride, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Oh, I love that. I love your story. Like it's kind of like a redemption story, really. It's
Totally.
beautiful. Yeah. So backing up a little bit, do you have to go to school to become a tattoo artist, like college? Because when you're talking about college, unless you were thinking about doing something outside of tattooing as well.
No, so I wanted to be an incredible artist regardless. And so I figured the best way that I could get a tattoo apprenticeship was to go to fine art school because I preferred I like school. So like it
Mm,
makes sense that I like to teach
yeah.
because I really do enjoy schooling. I was a CPA prior, so I went to school for
Okay.
business and finance and was worked corporate America for a couple of years until I found out I could draw, quit my job, went back to school for fine art, and then became a tattoo artist. So there, you actually you don't need anything, to be
Okay.
honest. It's so easy to become a tattoo artist. I think over the years things have changed a little bit, but we are so under the radar,
Mm,
and I don't really think that the government knows how lucrative our businesses are yet.
yeah. Yeah. That makes
It's
sense.
still kind of one of those like really under the radar businesses, so they don't have a lot of rules for us yet, like they would with like hairstylists or
Sure.
um, estheticians or things like this. Even though I would probably range myself as close to anywhere in that range, even closer to even like, um, you know, um, body modification, plastic surgery kind of vibes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. So through your process, well,
Mhm.
first, can I ask you, did you have tattoos and things before you became a tattoo artist? Like, were you like, I love tattoos so much, I'm super obsessed with them? Or did that come more as you became a tattoo artist and then you got into tattoos more?
I'd say both. I was heavily tattooed as a CPA.
Okay.
So, my boss, thankfully, he was very new age, up and coming in the internet world when, gosh, aging myself when you're like, oh, we're up and coming in the
Right.
internet. But like, he was like very, very open, very hip. I was living in LA, and he was like, girl with tattoos, even better, and she's gonna handle my finances. That's hilarious. So yeah, so he was very like chill with it. So I had like a full sleeve neck tattoos, chest tattoos already. And then I always knew I was going to be a heavily tattooed person. I tell my mom this all the time. I was like, I was born with tattoos. It just
Yeah.
needed to come out, you know? And so yeah,
Yeah.
so I love the culture of tattoos. I think tattooing is a form of self-expression. And so it's just like this idea that although I was born with this body or this skin, that I still have full sovereignty of what I'd like to do with it. And so it
Yeah.
just feels really it feels good. I feel sexy
Yeah.
in my skin with my tattoos for
Yes.
sure.
And I mean, you look sexy and you
Thank
have
you.
this like, I think just this vibe that you have that your aura, maybe, whatever it is, where you just show up like, this is who I am and take it or leave it. And I love that. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Thank
hmm
you.
So, how was your family? Like, were they like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're tattooing so much. And I only asked because I come from a, a family where I did a little tiny tattoo on my toe when I turned 18. And I was terrified to tell my parents, even though you could hide it. And I don't think I told them, I don't think it was for probably a year after I got it because I was just so terrified of what they were going to say and, all of that. So, how was that for you?
Totally. I grew up very Christian,
Mhm.
the Christian household. I think what's funny is that like the way that I was brought up Christian was very chill. I live on the beach, so it's like I grew up in like surf church. Like we would go surfing for
Yeah,
church.
I
Like
love
this was
that.
like the fun church. Like we had a cool pastor that wore Hawaiian shirts all the time,
I love that.
So it was very chill for me growing up when it come to like Christianity. I didn't really understand it until I got my first tattoo and I realized how like I didn't want to let my parents down or my dad down really. Me and my dad were really, really close. And when he first saw my first tattoo, he cried. He was like so bummed. And then as I started to become more heavily tattooed, it actually really put a strain on our relationship.
Mm.
And I think when I became a tattoo artist, it really hurt him, and it hurt him for like because he's just like God made you this way and why would you. And this is where I started to see this other side of Christianity that I was like, or this other side to my dad's idea of what his God believed, because I believe in God, but like I believe in what I believe. Like it's
Right.
my own God, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so it's like it's this like for me it's like divine righteousness, one consciousness, God consciousness, cosmos, universe, whatever you want to call it. It's like that is like my God. It doesn't have like a he or she vibe to it. It's just like that. It is what it is. But his God was very much of the nature for him that it was a sin to touch your body in this way. It was a sin to do it for other people. You should feel wrong and you should feel bad about it. And it actually it was really hard because he was my best friend,
Mm.
and when as an adult I didn't have I didn't have a relationship with him, so it
Mm.
was really really tough. And my mom and my stepdad were always really worried, but my mom was more worried that I wouldn't make it as an
Mm.
entrepreneur and a tattoo artist. But she thought it was just a really interesting thing to have. She's like, how, when you're tattooed, what do you think when you're gonna look old when you're older?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these other aspects to it. And I think honestly, it was because of that that made me want to get more. It
Yep.
was like this rebellious
Yeah.
aspect to show them that like I will probably be the most successful person in our
Mm.
family
Yeah.
to create generational wealth because of the way I look, not in spite of it. And
Mm.
so that was
Yes.
really where like and I'm like my mother in that way. I'm very stubborn and rebellious like she is. So of course I would do the same thing
Yeah.
she would do. So it just makes sense. Yeah, it makes
Oh,
sense
yeah.
now.
Well, thank you for sharing that part of your story because I'm
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
yeah, you don't even think about that when, like, I think about it for myself, but as a tattoo artist, I just, I think sometimes you just assume, like, oh, obviously their family is totally fine with it and they're good and it's all good. So I think it's really a good perspective just to hear your side of the story and how it was for you growing up and things too. So,
Yeah, totally. I think it's different because, I have young artists in my space, and some of their parents are just like so over the moon about it. They love it. They're like, oh, that's so creative and wonderful. And I'm like, oh, I love that for you. And I do, and it's like, I would say from my experience being a tattoo artist for 13, 14 years, 14 years ago, it was still not like, it was still
Yeah.
taboo to
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
I've even had, strangers off the street say the most horrendous things to me. And I'm like, I don't even know
Right.
you.
Right.
And you felt the need. I triggered you just by the way I looked. You felt the need that you need to say something to me, which at the same time, it's like, it's never, I just always like laughed. For me, it was always just like oh, like, okay, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just a really interesting, and especially as a woman who's heavily
Mhm.
tattooed, it's
Yes.
very different than a man. And so it's like there are stigmas out there
Mhm.
regarding it, and but I believe that that's my purpose. I'm here to kind of like break paradigms, baby.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. I have a someone that I knew growing up, and she ended up getting very heavily tattooed and on her chest and things too. And I just remember because we went to church and, just remember people talking about it and thinking to myself, like, I never thought anything bad about it because I'm like, gosh, she's just doing what she wants to do. And I almost was jealous in a way, like, wow,
mm,
she can do this and she can put tattoos so visibly on her body and not even care. Where I was always like, I gotta find the spots that I can hide them up until I
mhm,
went to Costa Rica this year when I got my finger tattoos. But I was
uh-huh,
terrified of even like, okay, even for a little bit, even though I've done this work now of like, this is who I am okay. If people don't like me, that's it, it is what it is. But I always had this like, I want everyone to like me and to love me and all of this. And so getting the tattoos, like I came home and I was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to say? Like I almost had this like buyer's remorse. Like, shoot,
totally.
well, I can't take it back now. This is what it is. And my son, he's 16, has always been he does not like tattoos for some reason. And so he's been one of my biggest of like why I don't, because I really want a sleeve, like at least a half
Mhm,
sleeve. And
mhm.
he's always like, don't do that, mom. You're going to look like a biker chick. And I was like, well, what does that even mean? Like, what does that like? I just think he thought maybe I was going to change if I got the
Mm,
tattoos, that meant that you were something different. And so
mm,
I think even there's just so much stigma around tattoos. And because you have tattoos, then you're going to act or you're going to be this kind of person or you're going to, when it's, and so that's why I'm meeting you and seeing you with all of your tattoos and just this beautiful presence that you have and this, yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's funny, like we go through this experience of trying to, mind ourselves, like,
Yeah.
well, logically, intellectually, like I shouldn't feel this way. It is who I am, and this kind of thing. And I found even in the years because when I first started getting tattooed, it was armor. At first, it was to protect me because I didn't feel confident in myself, so I felt like it made me feel stronger. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my, I am a badass. Like,
Yeah.
yes, I've got these tattoos, and it makes me more of a badass. And it made me let me walk around with this like idea that I was just like I can be so like I can suck up the level of presence in a room because of the
Mhm.
way that I could just
Yeah.
emanate confidence. And that was for me, that was helpful for me to hide all the insecurities I had when I was younger. And so I've realized over the years, especially doing a lot of like, mental health, spiritual mindset, mental and physical and emotional health, and vitality. I really focused on that in the last like, gosh, like 8 years. It has really shifted to where I'm realizing that like my mind can mind all the time, but unless like I get it onto a deeper level within my body and understand that like I can absolutely love the body that I'm in and still, decorate it the way that I desire and still feel as confident or whatever. Like my tattoos, I no longer need them to help me feel that confidence. Now they're just a part of me. Now I don't even notice them anymore. I'm just like, ah, here I am.
Yeah.
And it's but the only starkness difference is that it's so funny. My boyfriend says it's the best because he's like, when I met you, because he has zero tattoos. He's
I
never
noticed that
dated
when you
any.
guys were on vacation this last time. I was like, wait, I mean, I only could see just parts of him,
Yeah.
but I was like, I don't think he's got any tattoos, which is so funny.
He has zero. And, and there was a part of me in the beginning of our relationship where I was a little nervous about that. I was like,
Mhm.
are you going, because, I have been used to people without tattoos and men to have some sort of thing about that. Like, oh, well, I wouldn't date a girl with tattoos, or I wouldn't date a girl that has more tattoos than me. It's like this more idea. And so I was a little nervous about it. And I know that my mom still has a bit of a stigma around it, and she's very protective of me, but she's protective in a way that can be kind of like backhand condescending. And you're like, you can't say that kind of stuff. But like, so I was a little worried about like when I started to fall in love with my partner, I was like, is he gonna love this body? And I had to go through my own, like, am I gonna love this body? I don't need him to
Mhm.
love this body. I love
Yeah.
this body. And but to have a powerful partner that I do, and we have beautiful communication. When I express this to him, he's like, babe, I love your body. He's like, but you don't even see your tattoos when you know you. It's like, he's
Mhm.
like, when I like, you are just like, you are a prize. And at the same time, it's
Mhm.
like, if anybody's even lucky enough to get past the surface level crap that everybody's so blinded by, they would know that you're a fucking gem, and that it's like, it's so much more than just the tattoos. Like your whole, like how you said, aura is just
Mhm.
like, your presence is really just so gravitating. And I was like, I love
Yeah.
you. I love you so much. You're amazing. And it was like that was the moment I was like, yep, I'm gonna baby
Yep.
trap him or something like that.
Yeah.
One of those things.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yeah.
so cool. So, do you have any tattoos that you regret that you're like, oh gosh, I wish I would have done that?
I went into becoming tattooed I think I was 17 years old, and it was like, I think it was a week before I turned 18, and I got a tattoo on my chest the day I turned 18, and I promised myself, I was like, I will never regret a single tattoo I ever get. And it was just like a
Mhm.
mindset. It was a
Yeah.
deep-seated belief that I've put into my nervous system. And it was one of those things where I just said never, because I knew that that was going to be the biggest question that I was
Mhm.
going to get from my
Mhm.
parents, especially. You're going to regret this. You're going to regret this. That's what I could hear from them. And I was like, I will never regret a single thing that I ever do within my life, even if it's the most horrible thing. And me having done the things that I've done, even then I'm like, gosh, here is this promise I made to myself when I was a little girl, and said that I was like, I'll never regret a thing, and how hard it is to not regret all that like shame and stuff. But I'm like, this is my path. Like, this is the way that we get through these things. And I truly believe it just builds that resilience. However, there is one tattoo that I remember, and I was like, oh my goodness. I remember it was my neck tattoo. I have a tattoo on my neck. It's like of a skull and has TNA in it, and it was for a girlfriend, but of course it sounds like tits and ass. And I was like, excuse me, tits and A, sorry. We can leave that out. But it wasn't. It was my name and her name. It was like we were best friends.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like I was hopped up on tequila,
Yeah.
and I thought it was like a, quarter size. And I woke up the next day, and it was like my entire neck, and it was the only neck tattoo I had. And I was like, oh my gosh, you look like a hood rat. You look like a gangster girl. And I was like, oh no, my boss is gonna kill me, because I was still in corporate America.
Sure.
And I get to work, and I'm trying, and I was very heavily pinup. So I dressed up very pinup. I pin curled my hairs every day,
Sure.
red lipstick, the day dresses, the whole nine. Like, I was very, very pinup in my 20s. And so I like did my hair in a really great like curly way, and like
Yeah.
had my parasol, and just trying to like not get him to see this tattoo I had on my neck. And he's like, Reese, he's like, I love you. He's like, but what is on your neck? And I was like, I know. so sorry. And he didn't want to be dad, but he really
Yeah.
was like, because he's, he's like in his 50s. He's like, nope, don't want HR. Don't want HR. And he's like, I don't want HR on me. He's like, I'm not gonna tell you anything. He's like, I love you. I love you. And he
Yeah.
walked out, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, so at that moment, I realized what I had to do was of course, like as a 21-year-old girl who has like this stamp on her neck, I was like, I have to get that. I gotta build all these tattoos to kind of like bring it
Mm,
all together. So I literally got my whole entire neck tattooed down my chest, down my back, in order for it not to look so stark. And I was like, yeah, that was the way to make it not look so stark. Just get more tattoos. Yeah. So that was my logic around that. But it was the only one that I was like, holy crap.
yeah.
But now, I mean, obviously, after his reaction was like what it was,
Yeah.
and it was okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So is
fine.
it still there or did you turn it into
Oh,
something?
no. I mean, no, everything's still,
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
covered anything. I've never
Okay.
covered a tattoo. I don't regret a single one. That was the only one that was like, I could have gone
Yeah.
smaller. I wish
Yeah.
I'd have paid more attention. But I do have this people pleasing
Yeah.
tendency, especially when I was younger. And I still have it now. And I'm not very, like, it's like a very grounded people pleasing because
Mhm.
I just love people. I
Yeah.
love people. I love helping people. And I will give you 110% of everything I always do. That's just my way, and I believe that people pleasing is a totally beautiful thing coming from a really grounded,
Yeah.
non-egoic
Mm,
place.
I love
And so
that.
I never want to like negatively portray people pleasing as like a bad thing because I think it's really good for, especially in a service business like
Yeah.
where I'm with people all the time. But at that time, it was definitely a little bit more on the egoic side where I didn't want to say anything to the tattoo artist to make it smaller or bigger. I just was like, no, whatever you think is going to be best. And at that time, I could have said no, but I believe we all live and
Yeah.
learn. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
mhm.
I love that. The twist on the people pleasing because I haven't because I am a people pleaser myself. And so the last few years I've really been like, okay, how do I set better boundaries? And so I love how you did a spin on it because I still am. I still have
Yeah.
this people pleaser side of me, but like you said, it comes. And now that you said that, I'm like, yeah, mine does come from a more grounded place. It's not that I'm striving and trying to do all these things outside of who I am to be, to like have them, I don't want to say have them like me, but just to serve and
Yeah.
to give wholeheartedly. So I love how you put that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's this deep level when we start to kind of like for me the way that I teach embodiment and meditation it's very much on the side of like how can I take the thing that I should like reject and repress and suppress and these kinds of things and how can I turn it into some like almost desirable, kinky, like just like, ooh, I'm a people pleaser. Like, how
Yeah.
can I just
Yeah.
like love that? Like, how can I just like kind of play with it dramatically? And I'm like, ooh, there's my shame. Oh gosh, I need validation today. No, like I love to play in that because I do love validation.
Mhm.
I love attention. I love people pleasing. I love like I love to shame myself. I love to judge myself. I love it because it's helped me so much.
Yeah.
And but we always unconsciously say that we don't like those because people told us not to like
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we create a shadow, of course, and this is where shadow work kind of comes along. And so it's like I don't want to whenever anything we make unconscious becomes a shadow. So I just want to create everything, whatever's in my shadow, make it conscious and be like, there is an unconscious fulfillment that is happening when I say, oh, you should be better. Oh, you should be skinnier. Oh, you should look this certain way. Oh, you should make this person like you. And I'm like, oh, I should make this person like me. Okay. Like, how can I play
Yeah.
and allow that shadow to just be loved on a little bit more? Because I think that that's for us, that's where like we have this habit of shaming and habit of like feeling insecure, judging ourselves with the way that we show up in the online space or the way that we just show up in life. And it's like, how can I allow myself to, instead of trying to mind trick myself into being, well, like I shouldn't shame myself, like, we know that intellectually we can logic that, but logic doesn't get past
Yeah.
the mind. It only goes so far. And so for me, it's more like, okay, how can I allow myself to be fully self-acceptance in everything that I do, including all of the stuff that we say it's not, like our ego deems as unacceptable. And that's for me is really, it's a lifelong practice for me, but it's definitely something how I teach business in the creative world.
Yeah, I love that. Two things, like it's almost like bringing that, making that your power. Like
Hmm.
that is my power now. And instead of it being the thing that is negative, the thing that is bringing me down, like turning it into using it as your power source. So I love
Hmm. Yes, shame into power, baby. That's
that.
like the
Yeah.
whole thing. I think it honestly, it's due in part to the, cancel culture. It was like when I
Mm.
got canceled, it was so hard. And I still get canceled to this day. Like I'll talk about it and I'll talk about my past and it'll be turned around in some way to someone spin it to make it to just whatever they want to do. And I'll get Reddit threads,
Mm.
posts about me about all these things. And I'm just like, you can't crucify someone that's already crucified
Yeah.
themselves. So like you
Yeah.
can't you can't like the thing is that like for me it's like you can't shame me if I've already owned it. Like that's like the
Mhm.
best part. And so
Yeah.
that like full unapologetic self-acceptance for me is a big piece just from me, my own practice and that's just the way that I desire to show up every single moment of my life.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, what is your soul's purpose? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. That right there. It's turning shame into power. Like that's my biggest soul's purpose. I know that's what I'm here to do for my soul. Like my soul was like, Reese, we're gonna go through a lot of crap.
Yeah.
I've decided that I want the full spectrum of the human experience. And so you're going to be born into a family that's gonna put you in this position, and then this is gonna happen, and then this, and then this, and then this. And I'm like, wow. I truly believe that the reason why my soul chose this path was because it's strong enough to handle it. And so
Mm.
I was like, if I'm going to be the one that has to, go through all of these different experiences, um, yeah, we're going to do it with grace and we're going to, do it with ease. And so that was basically the whole goal. So turning shame into power, a lot of shame in my life and a lot of like insecurities from all of the stuff that I've gone through, even as a child. And so it's just, it's really just like it's that. It's really just helping others doing the same thing and leading by example, really.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you're very successful, at least online too. And I know in person it seems like as well. So, did you have the success or because you have quite a big following on Instagram and things like that. So, did you have all that prior to going on the show, or did you have to like completely start over after you had that period where you were like gone for a year? Like, did you restart over, rebrand, all of that stuff, or how did that all go?
It was interesting because again, heavy, deep, deep levels of prayer and kind of shifting my own understanding and body wisdom of what I was hearing, what was being downloaded and cosmically like planted the seed into my mind was the smart thing to do would have been to just start over and not have the same name and be called out under the same handle and all of these things. But nope, Reese likes it the hard way. My soul wanted it the hard way. And so no, I didn't. I did get really big. I think if we're gonna talk in like in terms of like following, it was like I think I was at like 50,000 followers at the time. The TV definitely really helped. But honestly, now these days, like people don't even remember even what the show I was on, which is something I love. I'm like, that's a whole past life. It's longer than 10 years ago. It's awesome. And but yeah, so like I think honestly it actually happened more so when I decided to become a coach and then started to really come out with my story. So that's when it really like went on another level of visibility and also my art, as I got better internally, my art just inadvertently got better. I was shedding the layers and healing all these parts of myself so that I can become more connected to my creativity, which is way down in the sacral. And so I was like, oh wow, like the meditation is what really
Mm,
helped me get better at my art. I believe that whole heart and soul. It was my connection to myself, my relationship to myself is the reason why my creativity and innovation blew up. And that's, that's essentially what I like to teach in
mm.
my
I love
spaces.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, that's part of something that I do with breath work as well.
Hmm.
And so, because I started out as people would say, just meditate, it'll be fine. And then I couldn't meditate. I was like, I cannot sit here with my thoughts.
Hmm.
So if there's anybody listening that they're like, okay, I want to get into my creativity, I want to feel like that too, but I don't know how to meditate. Like, how did you start? How did you get into it?
So I started very heavy masculine energy here, entrepreneur, love the masculine energy. So it was like Buddhist style meditation. We're gonna breathe. We're just gonna follow the breath and that's it. And we're gonna anytime we go through a thought, we're gonna let the thought go and we're gonna continue to breathe. And so I did that for years. Hour-long meditations every single day, like clockwork. It was very much like I'm very driven. And so I was like, I want to be the best spiritual being. And I think it's really funny as someone who's such a high achiever, like us high achievers are like, we want to be the best at everything. Of course I want to be the best at my spirituality, and that's not really the goal there, but it is. And so I started to notice that actually the meditation was um there was this aspect where I was like almost grinding against something. So I've realized that it wasn't just my mind. So I have this practice. It's my own methodology that I teach, where we do go into meditation. We start off with a little bit of just like still mind stilling, and really cool thing is that like since I do a lot of tattooing around warrior women, I study a lot of mythology. And so Valkyries, Norse mythology, they call it mind stilling. So it's like this breath work to just like focus on the breath and not focus on what's going on in the mind. And anytime you have a thought, you kind of let go. So we learn this first. And then we go deeper into the body where we start to understand the sensations and start to understand the language of the body. And for me, sometimes the language of the body, when my body wants to move, we move. So it's like, why not just like move, even if we're still in like meditation pose or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be like a full on dance, but can I like allow my body to just like primordially move? And what I mean by primordial, it's like in the womb, we're stuck in a bunch of water and we're moving like this. So I just kind of imagine that like my body is in water and however my body wants to move, we move to kind of alchemize this energy of whatever's happening in the body to allow it to speak. And so for me, like it went from like hour-long meditations to now like meditations that go into like almost I don't even know what to call it, but it was one of those like where I just started just to use my hands to move, and it was like as if I was moving energy. And so I started to call it my body wise and wealthy method, because every time I would do it, I felt I was getting so much more creative. I was really clear in where I wanted to go. I knew exactly what I wanted to post. I knew how to talk to my people. I was all of a sudden like I was making sales every single day. I was like, what is happening here? And I just kept going into this body movement and started to notice even um, my students who were utilizing the body wise and wealthy method. It's like they started to see a big difference within their own creativity and their art, the clients that they were getting, and things like this. And so it morphed over the years. So it is still meditation, but it's more like a moving meditation, like upper body moving meditation, and then if it's necessary, we do full body.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's because you have a tattoo business,
Mhm.
in-person business, right?
Mhm.
And then you also do online like coaching. And is it just coaching that you
Yeah,
do, or business
yeah.
coaching and life and whatever? Yeah.
Basically, like it's like transformational coaching, I really think. But it's like, but I do teach branding, so I teach tattooers how to, our first step is always like to understanding what it is that you desire, your own body, your relationship to you, and simultaneously bringing that into business. And so I believe your spiritual, mental, and emotional health will lead to your wealth and success, and you can do both at the same time. And so for me, it's like this aspect of as within, so without, this like idea and this belief as within, so without. So it's like anything within us is going to be outside of us. Our business is a reflection to who we are.
Mm.
And so it's like going in from that perspective. So going inward first and then teaching the methodologies of building a personal brand. Because personally for me, like I'm a tattoo artist. I have a tattoo shop. I teach tattooers how to build businesses. I teach tattooers, creatives, coaches, and entrepreneurs how to build businesses, and how to build personal brands. And what I love about the personal brand, I call it the octopus business, because as a personal brand, you have one main message, as in the bulb of the octopus, and then you have these tentacles that can go out. And so I sell tattoos, art, I sell, what is it, like retreats, programs, containers, and all under one brand message. And my clients, like as far as like my tattoo collectors, that demographic, that ideal client is fully booked. And then my tattoo artists who I teach, that also on this side is very the creatives, entrepreneurs, they're like my spaces are full. And so it's just really beautiful that like we can have one message, still speak to everybody, even though they might be in different sides of the spectrum of like what product or service they're buying.
I love that.
Mhm.
And you think this all was created basically because of your, what did you call it? Your rock bottom, your dark night of the soul, or whatever you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that was a big catalyst to it. It was because it led me to understanding and wanting to get closer to myself. And I believe that the relationship to myself is what has built this business. So that for me, how it's been built so much bigger and beyond me, to the point where, as a tattoo artist, when you're doing one-to-one, making $1 million is not even, that's not something anybody thinks about. It's just not it. However, being a tattoo artist and making $300,000, that's also really crazy. That's also really crazy. So for me, being a tattoo artist and surpassing the 300K mark and then surpassing the 1 million mark, I was like, oh, I see. So it was every time I get closer into that relationship with me, it became this new like expansion and almost like this nervous system calibration around success. And so this is really, for me, it was like that part of my life, that cancel culture, that whole idea, did help me come closer to myself, because I only had me at the time. Everybody left. Everybody that I thought were my friends or whatever, they all left. And my family didn't understand, and they were just like, they didn't get it. And so for me, it was like, I only have me. So it was definitely a catalyst to getting to know myself better and to creating a better relationship, making myself my own best friend, essentially. And so that I could really rise to the occasion and hold myself when dark times happen, because they do. And so it's not about avoiding the hardship, it's just about doing hard things with ease.
Mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, did you have someone that you looked up to that you were like, because I don't know, even if there is, you might know because you're in the tattoo world and
Mhm.
I'm not really, but I have a couple of people that I know that do tattoos, but is there someone that you looked up to that you're like, okay, this person is doing amazing in their business, they're tattooing, they're doing all these things, that you had like that's kind of what I want to do? Or is this you are the first one doing this? That's how I look at it. I see you as being this first one that's like really doing this, but I don't know if there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When as far as like artists that I look up to as far as their artistry, absolutely. So many. I still have so many. I love going to seminars and going to like little conventions to go learn from these people. However, tattooers who were coaching, I definitely, I know that, and as I've spoken to other tattoo like coaches, I believe that I'm one of the first ones. And I still think that I'm still really only there's only like three of us that are like really big, that like well, and we all know each other. So it's like we're always looking to each other for help because we're like, well, what are you thinking about this and how are you dealing with this? And the other two guys that are in it, because I'm the only female. There is one other female, I think, but again, it's like it's so different. Like my forefront is spirituality, mental health, and spiritual health first, and everybody else's strategy first. So for me, I'm like both simultaneously. Like, but we're gonna look at this one thing first because, you know, your energy informs the strategy, and your emotional health, your identity informs your energy. So the strategy, if we're moving, it's the movement, the strategy is the movement in the material world on the third dimension. It's like we think about it like, okay, well, then what's my energy in this? Am I going to not be okay with this? Or am I going to just try to mind trick myself into doing something this way or whatever? Then the energy, then we're got to look at even deeper, which is the identity and the emotional aspect. So it's like the deep rooted belief within the body. And if my identity believes that I'm incapable, then I wonder where my energy's at, and I wonder how I'd move in the world. So it's like we have to understand that this identity piece, this emotional piece, is what informs the energy, and where the energy informs how you move in the world is the strategy. So I teach all three, and I do these two first, just because of the fact that I feel like it's the only piece. It's the only piece that really matters, because at the end of the day, I've had so many people come to me and they're like, "Wow, Reese, I didn't even know that I didn't even like the tattoos I was doing. I didn't even like what I was doing until we did these other two pieces, which was the identity and then the energy piece." And I was like, well, now we're getting to know ourselves, aren't we? So now we get to switch, and then it becomes something so much greater than just feeling like you have to do what everybody else is doing, be another, um, another copy in a room filled with so many copies, and it makes it actually easier. Like, I personally think having a personal brand is so much more fun and easy than just trying to have like a portfolio filled with tattoos that are just like whatever. And it's like we want to be outdoing ourselves. And so for me, it's like these aspects, all three pieces, all three parts of the game that we play on this beautiful planet. Yeah, we gotta really look at all three.
Yeah. That's awesome. So did you have like mentors yourself as far as like the business or the strategy or the energetics, or did you teach yourself all of this stuff as well?
Oh, mentors.
Yeah.
You gotta have mentors. Everybody's gotta have a coach. Like, you can't. I have like
Oh, I
five
feel.
right now. Like, I've never not had five for the last 5 years. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. At first, it was like books. Books were my mentors. I didn't know anything else. And as far as tattooing, I had a few mentors, and we have this very lone wolf mentality in the tattoo industry. And I know this is in a lot of industries as well, but for us, there's this part of us that are like, well, I don't want any help. I want to say that I did it all on my own. And um I wanted that. And so I actually never did any seminars for the first, like, gosh, 8 years of my career almost. It was like I was just so like, no. What a dork. Like, I love me. I love my ego. Like, my sweet ego, just she's so cute. And I'm like, you're so sweet. Oh my goodness. Let's go get some help.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the first part of my help was my spiritual counselor. She was like my therapist. So we call her spiritual counselor, but for all intents and purposes, that's what she is a therapist. And she like I was going to her because my previous relationship I was trying to like fix. I was like, there's something wrong with me. He said I needed therapy, so I'm getting it. And then she was like, oh. And so all of a sudden I started to get to know myself better, and I was like, oh no. Oh no, no, I'm leaving. Yeah, yeah, no, no, this isn't working. All of a sudden, and so it was like that was like my first stint, and then business coaching, um, I've had probably since like 2020. So yeah, it was a random thing. I didn't even like it was like in 2019 when I won an event. Like, I won an event to like a business event, and I didn't know what it was about. I was like, oh, this sounds fun. It's not for entrepreneurs, and I'm always wanting to like understand a little bit more. And it was this event for online course creators I didn't have a course. I didn't have anything. I didn't teach anything. I just won this ticket to go to this event. And I just remember everybody asking me, what do you teach? And I was like, I don't teach anything. I'm a tattoo artist. I'm just here. And I just looked so different than everybody in this room. And I was like, I'm just here. And then someone asked, they're like, who has a large following? And I was like on Instagram? I was like, I do. And they're like, come on up and speak to 600 people about how you grew this following. And I was like, no, no, I don't know. I mean, and so like I just I was like, well, let's just go. So I went up and started talking about social media and then started talking about business. And I was like, and then I sat back down and all the people around me were like, that's what you teach. And so
Yeah.
that's how I kind of fell into business. And then it went into this whole, and then I started to find like other mentors and business people that really resonated with my style of business that I wanted to create. And I think that's the biggest part is like, again, getting to know yourself well enough to know who you desire to be around and who you want, like these next level, getting into rooms with
Yeah.
people that are so next level, they make you feel so uncomfortable. And that's always been, thankfully, that's always been a vibe for me. It's the only reason why I said yes to doing television as a 2-year tattooer.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It's like these little things just found you to bring you to this place. And that's the beauty of it. Especially just being open, being like, okay, I'm just gonna be open to go do this. And I think that's like a huge thing. That's how I've seen my growth in the last 3 years too, is just being completely open, like whatever needs to happen, whoever needs to come in, just I'm open, just to receive and however it needs to happen and flow and just let it go.
Isn't that the easiest way though?
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
you're like if I am just open to receiving and then not even I think for me that part of it always allows me to kind of just I'm like this is lifelong.
Mm.
Like so if I can just have a better relationship to that connection to what the nudges where the nudges are pointing me that I'm probably going to get to where I want to go or where I really really want to go, which is probably something I can't even fathom in my
Yeah.
mind, like faster if I just stop trying to get in the way of it.
Yes.
And I find that to be one of my like a really big process and you know, like journey for me is to just trust. It's like this simple trust and surrender. And I think that's what's been really helpful in my business to not really look at every outcome or milestone as that like next thing that's going to
Yeah.
make it mean something about myself. It's more so like, well, it's all going to work out. So I'm just going to continue to obviously put every ounce of effort into the thing that I'm doing and just trust that whatever happens is meant to happen and then look at it from like a very constructive eye and then love on myself for any parts of myself that feel sad for it maybe if it didn't work the way I wanted it to or something of that nature but then just keep going. It's like I think that you're always going to find yourself feeling those nudges a lot more than anything, and it goes with like even my partner. We met at 4 o'clock in the morning. We didn't even know each other's names, and he was moving back to England,
Wow.
and he got my first name, Reese. That's all he got, and he somehow found me on Instagram, and he followed his nudge. And just to find me on Instagram, he was like, I don't know how to spell her name. I don't know who she is. I just know I just know what she looks like.
Yeah.
And he found me. And that was through because my business is big enough in San Diego to where if you type in my name, you're probably
Mm,
gonna see
sure.
something, and especially if you even mention the word tattoo.
Yeah.
And so it was just like this beautiful nudge. And all of a sudden, 4 months long distance, barely meeting the guy, and we're here in this situation 3 years later. So it's like all of these little nudges are trying to point you in the right direction. Are you just willing to like let go, you
Yeah.
know?
That's amazing. So did he move? He must have moved because you're in California. Yeah.
The plan was always for him to move. He's an
Okay.
entrepreneur as well.
Okay.
Big business in the golf coach, really, I don't know. He built a crazy
He
brand. I'm
coaches
like,
golfers.
what's that?
He coaches golfers.
Yeah, so he no,
Okay.
he coaches golfers, but
Okay.
in the online space. So huge on
Okay.
YouTube,
Interesting.
very big guy, very big brand on YouTube.
I
So
wonder if my
how
son knows
how
him because he loves golf. So, what's his
what's
name?
that?
I said my son loves golf, so I wonder if he
Oh,
knows him. What's his name?
I wouldn't put it past like they do a lot of they I wouldn't put it past another golfer to know. Like he gets recognized on the streets like crazy.
Wow.
I'm like, golf is big, huh? He goes, yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like to find my perfect match who gets it. He
Yeah.
gets content, he gets being an entrepreneur, he gets branding, he gets business, and then to also like find me one morning and then
Mm,
decide, it's like all of these little nudges. If it wasn't for all of these little nudges, we might not have crossed paths in the way that we did. And it was so unlike what most people do these days, especially with like online dating and things like this. It's like to meet in a gym at 4 in the morning seems
yeah.
really random and very small percentage for that to
Yes.
happen.
Yes.
But I mean, it was for us. So it was
Yes.
like, I just think that it's, again, just coming back to the fact that like truly like listen, just listen,
Hmm.
let yourself like do the breath work, like follow Jessica, do the breath work, you know what I mean? And like get in your body and just find those like and get to know yourself so much so that you just trust that you're gonna go left instead of right for no other
Yes.
reason because your body said.
Mm. Oh, yes. That's so good. So good. So, real quickly, how
Yeah.
did you get to doing conferences and things? Because, like, yes, you have your own store and have an online business, but how did you get into tattooing at like a women's spiritual business conference?
You know, I'm I'm so open. I'm always a yes girl. And I personally think it kind of ties back into two things. So you asked, did I have any mentors? Yes. And so by me being in spaces with people that elevated me, I got to know a lot of really awesome women,
Mm,
hence As She Rises and Casey. So I was in I think it was a 30-person mastermind with Casey. We were both our mentor at the time was Shoshana Raven.
okay.
And so from there, Casey randomly asked me, she goes, "Would you have a tattoo at a conference?" And I was like, "Yes." And it actually snowball affected because I tattooed at Casey's. Then we put a whole, package together for doing it more often because I love entrepreneurs and especially women in business. Like, I love you guys. I love us. We are amazing. We are so cool and we are so connected, spiritual
Yeah.
women that are connected to God and universe and source. Like, and then to be able to offer a next level sense of self-expression for you to make you feel more like you on the outside as you do on the inside, like that is like a dream for me. That's my whole world. That's the reason why I love tattooing. And so it was like you get into high level spaces or spaces that really elevate you. You network your butt off because and
Mhm.
it wasn't even you network your butt off. I had no idea this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I just was really drawn to Casey. Me and her were always like shooting it off. We were like,
Yeah.
"Yes, this you're amazing." She was funny. She always like no filter, I no filter. So it was just like we hit it off so well. And then when she had asked me, I was like, yeah. And she's like, "Would you be willing to fly out here?" I was like, "Yeah, like that's easy. Like,
Awesome.
let's go." And so I had traveled a lot. I used to be a traveling tattoo artist, so I've traveled all over the
Oh,
world,
okay.
tattooing people all over the world.
Wow.
That's why I love my job so much, is
Yeah.
because like when you build a brand, you can get booked out wherever you go. Like
Yeah.
France, Italy,
Oh,
Philippines,
so
China.
cool.
I've been all over the world. And so it's just been such a blessing, but I stopped doing tattoo conventions so much because kind of took a toll out of me and there's a lot of stuff you've got to bring. But then this next level of doing them at women's conferences, I was like, oh my gosh. And so I've been doing As She Rises. Next year I'll be doing two more for other women business conferences like this, and they also asking me to speak as well. So it's like beautiful twofold. And I think it I think there's a different of a flavor since I am a tattoo artist and I'm an artist at
Mhm.
first. And so I think that does, it's like, it opens people's eyes to the difference in entrepreneurship and creative entrepreneurship that you can have, and not and so much bigger than um maybe they might have thought. And so it's been really fun just to say yes to life, whatever life throws you. So yeah, that's how it happened. Casey, we'll give Casey
Yeah.
all the juice for that one.
It's great. And I love that too, because, and if there's anybody that's, a tattooer that is listening, to have that, to take that advice that you just said, like there doesn't have to be, I don't just have to sit in a studio all day, every day tattooing. Like there's so much more that you can do with it. Just
Yeah.
utilizing that creative side of yourself. Like you don't have to just stay stuck in this box. And so that's what I think is so beautiful about your story, is that you really have just gone so far out of the box of what a typical tattoo artist looks like or how they operate and all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, thank you so much. I feel like we could just like talk and talk and talk.
I know.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything that you were like, oh, I would like to share this, or I wanted to talk about this, or anything, any other parting wisdom, anything you'd like to say before we wrap it up here today?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have such a deep desire for everyone to feel so sexy, yummy in their skin. And I feel like it's just one of those things. It's just part of my artistry. And I believe that like all our art, our business is our art. And it doesn't mean that you have to be an artist to be an artist. I think of you as an artist. I think of you as like a breathwork artist, if that's what you desire. If it's like I personally, it's just like everybody is an artist, and just your own creativity and how you share that, whether it's your message or your content or your programs, or or whatever it is that you're doing in the world, even if it is that you're working for someone, you know what I mean? It's all gets to be so unique and artistic to you. It's just really loving on this relationship to you and knowing like what success looks like to that wise highest self part of you versus what it might look like outside of you, or what everybody else is doing or something of that nature. And so I just wish for everyone to have like the most self-expressed, unapologetic um life and business that they desire. And I'm hoping that they just continue to dive deeper within themselves and just really create that soul bestie, their own be their own best friend in that way. So that would be like my parting words for everybody here.
I love that. So great. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's so wonderful to see you again. And
So good to see you too.
I'm coming next year, so I'll be there. I'll get to see you again.
Yes, you will. Yeah, and I think I'm actually coming early because I think I have a few people wanting to get bigger tattoos, and I was like, oh man. So like, we might be doing some days prior to that, but I'm really excited. It'll be yeah, Kate, since Casey kind of popped the proverbial cherry for myself with the women's conferences, I think that it's a new thing, and I'm really excited to be a part of this other side of the world with coaches and just spiritual healers. And it's so beautiful. So I'm really excited and stoked.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'll see you soon.
I'll see you too. Okay.
Thanks for joining. Oh, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you loved listening as much as I loved recording. Each and every conversation that I have here on this podcast just lights my soul on fire. I love having conversations where we explore and challenge our ways of thinking. So if you've resonated with anything here and you're looking for more, please connect with me on Facebook in my Soul Deep community group, which is free. I'm also offering all my listeners a free month in my Soul Deep Connection membership. I have poured my heart and soul into this membership, bringing you resources to help you grow into the best and truest version of yourself. I've used my knowledge and experience as a nurse, combined with my knowledge and experience as a coach, breathwork facilitator, and somatic embodiment guide. This library consists of breathwork, kriyas, and other resources and modalities that will help you learn about and give you the healing tools to live the life you've been dreaming about, and to help you find your true passion and zest for life again. This library of resources is vital for everyday maintenance. And on top of the library of resources, there are live monthly calls. ranging from breathwork, kundalini, full moon or new moon circles, as well as guest speakers on a variety of different topics from decluttering to marketing to sisterhood and all things healing and wellness. So make sure you join today to get you back on track to living that thriving life that you are longing for. Remember, the first month is free, and my hope is that you find so much value that staying is an absolute no-brainer. It really is everything that I was looking for as I started my journey, and so much more. I truly hope to see you inside my community. And if you haven't yet, please follow me here and on social. Like and subscribe, and make sure to share your favorite episode with your friends and community. And when you do, make sure to tag me in that post. If you tag me, you'll be entered into a drawing for that month where you can win a free one-to-one session, breathwork or coaching session with me. All the links will be in the show notes here below. Until next time, Soul Deep fam, and in the words of my dear friend Mary Lacey Banks, I'm holding you so tight in a thought hug.